Hello? Can you guys hear me? Let me know if the volume is... Should be okay, right? How have you guys been? The last couple of days, it was very crazy because a ton of people came to the YouTube channel and the Twitter. So it looks like we're going to have a lot of people here today. Let me go to the screen. Hey. So I saw too that a lot of you guys were visiting the previous streams and downloading the materials. So I guess you guys have been practicing, which is very good because today we're going to continue, and you kind of have to know what we did before. Hey, hello. Hey, Abner. Hey, Shadow. Nice to see you guys here. So, being that we have a lot of people, a lot of new people, and a lot of people probably that are going to see the POV later, I'm going to briefly explain you what we have been doing. So, we are basically in these streams, we're simulating the work you would have to do if you began working for an Japanese animation studio as a freelancer, like a remote freelancer, contacting your producer through the internet and receiving all of your stuff from the internet. And on the previous couple of streams, we already went through layout and the timesheet, which is the big first step that you do as an animator when you're working for a Japanese studio. Now, I'm going to show you the second big step, which is Genga / second key / Nigen. It has a lot of names, and I'm going to explain all of that to you. And I'm also going to explain you a bit of what happens behind the screen, maybe, or what happens at the studio once you send your cuts for the first time. It goes through several phases of correction stuff, and I'm going to explain you all of that too, so you know what's happening and you don't panic like me the first time I went through this. Hello everyone. Hey Mayuri, nice to see you. Hey Bert. So I think we can go to T-Paint. Remember also for the new people that you can ask me anything on the chat, and I'll do my best to answer you. Sometimes with this whoops. Oh, I thought it was frozen. Sometimes we go through a lot of terminology and stuff, and it might get a bit confusing. So you can just ask me, and I'll try to answer any doubt. Okay. So let's go to TV Paint. Nice. Okay, so we're going to get into our role play again. We are working for a Japanese animation studio, and we did our layout. And we supposedly sent our layout to our producer. I'm going to show you more or less how it should look. A lot of people asked me about how to export your animations, and the best way to show you that is that you go to the Google Drive that we made for you. It's in the description, and then we have a lot of sample cuts that we did for the Gargura video that Tonari did, and that's in those folders is the export structure of how you should send your cuts to a Japanese studio. They vary sometimes a bit, but on the previous stream, I explained you that sometimes cells are in different folders, sometimes not. But in general, that's the structure. So when you send your layout to the studio, it should be something like this. Where you can skip it. So we have a lot of files. We have a general view of your layout in a PNG. We may have the source file. This might be or not present. Sometimes they ask you to put it, sometimes don't. It generally doesn't need to be present, but you can put it. You have your timesheet on a PNG or a JPEG. You might also have the source file of the timesheet, which is useful if it has to be corrected, so that they don't have to just do it from zero. You have your cells, in this case just one, A1. You have your background, a couple of books, which are extra layers from the background, and your camera annotation. That's pretty much all you have to export and to send to the studio the first time. Now, what's going to happen? You are going to pick all your files. You're going to get them into a online storage product, whatever you want. I use Google Drive and never had any problem with that. The Japanese also have some of their own storage tools, but pretty much anything that's easily accessible to anyone, and to anyone I mean the producer. Like, do not leave it open, because that would be terrible. Do not leave it open to the public. Just send them the link, of course. And what's going to happen is probably going to be at least a month or something like that in a normal production, unless they are like really rushing it, and that could be just a couple of days, but generally it's several weeks. And the producer should contact you again and send you this, which is the same folder that you sent them, but now it has a lot of stuff added to it. And the most notable are all of the colored sheets that you see here. And I'm going to explain you what those are in a bit. But before we begin like drawing and looking at folders and sheets and stuff, I think we should get the terminology out of the way first, so that we don't cause any more confusion. So the title of today's stream is Genga, or Basic Genga. And this is a source of a lot of debate online sometimes, but the solution is pretty easy. Genga is a very general term that in pretty much means something like key animation in Japanese. It's not that it's a literal translation, but in concept, it kind of means key animation. Now, being key animation, it groups other processes. Like, for example, first key animation, which is basically the layout that we did. It's not the same. The people that watched the layout stream previously know that key animation and layout are not exactly the same, but they know that recently in the Japanese industry, both processes got merged into one. So for practical purposes, key animation and layout are the same. Okay. This is also called Daichi Genga. Or Ichigen is for, to make it short. This all of them mean the same for practical purposes, as I said. This is what we did on the previous two streams, that being the layout stream and the timesheet stream, which is part of this. After that, after you receive your folder with all the corrections and stuff, you'll have to do something that's called what we would call Genga, which is, again, this, for second key animation. Second key animation for Nigen or Genga. So Genga is pretty much all of this, but there's some distinctions. All of this are the same process that we're going to do in this stream, but this term in general, second key animation, is generally used only when the person that did the layout and the person that's doing the Genga are two different people, which could happen. Generally, when you get contracted by a studio or just contact to do some work, they assume that you will do both. That's kind of part of the it's part of the job, basically. So they assume that you are available to do both, to do your layout and then to apply the corrections. Okay, but a lot of times that's not possible because schedules, sometimes you don't have time, or sometimes the studio doesn't have time to wait for you, and they might give this process to someone else, whoever, any other animator at the studio or any other freelancer. They might get to do this part of the job. When that happens, we say that they did second key animation. But when you do all of this yourself, we say that you did Genga. Okay? I know that might be a bit confusing and that you might want to watch this a couple of times to understand it, but the most important thing that you have to know is that all of this, even though they have different names, they are the same process. So what I'm going to show you today is all of this. The same process, but with different names for different situations or different contexts. Okay? And when we talk about Genga, we generally mean the animation. Okay? Okay, let me know if... I hope that wasn't too confusing. It confused me a lot for years until I had to ask a lot and learn what all of these terms actually meant. Okay, let me read a bit of your comments before I continue. Good morning, good morning. Hey, Rix. Rayleigh saying, were your advice for someone who wants to start learning frame-by-frame animation with a decent level of drawing? What are the steps to follow for a beginner? Do you mean that you already have a decent level of drawing? Because if not, the first step is generally always to begin to learn to draw, right? Because animation is 80% drawing and just 20% animation. So if you want to be an animator, you have to learn to draw. After that, I would suggest you to read the survival kit, the animation survival kit from Richard Williams. Hopefully you can get hold of the videotapes or the video lessons that come with the book. I think those are the best first step to learn animation. That's how I learned, even though I was going to college, I learned more from the book and the lessons than from the actual classes. So I think that would be a good first or second step to learn how to animate. The good thing is that those uh, the Richard Williams uh, content, Richard Williams content, is so deep that even though it's meant for Western animation, then going to from Western to Japanese animation is very very easy because only the format changes. Okay, so that's my advice. Kai is asking, so how to pass the bar for Nigen and how to find a producer for the job? You're talking about like the test that some studios do in Japan. Generally, when you're working from uh, when you're a freelancer, they don't make you go through the test. They just assume that you can do it, or they risk themselves sometimes with new people, which was my case. But they assume that you have some basic skills, so you only have to go through the test if you're in Japan probably and working already with them. And I that's not my case, so I could not really tell you how the test is. So I'm going to show you now how we do Nigen, so that should be enough probably to have a good base. Kunishi is asking, quick question. Just in case I cannot see through the whole stream, will this be up for to watch later? Yes, all of the streams are available later to watch. Don't worry. Gigafile time. Is that the one that the Japanese use? I forgot the name, but yeah, they have their own file system, which I do not use myself because for some reason from my country, the upload to those services is incredibly slow. Like it's easy to download, but to upload is very very difficult. I don't know why that happens. Amos is asking, I wanted to ask, how do we improve our drawing to be on par with the animators doing the second work on anime? What would be your advice? Well, we already have a basic drawing stream from a few months ago. It's on the channel, and then there I show you basically the way I study drawing, like from the beginning and later, and I show you some exercises that you can use to level up basically. That being said, if you're doing layout or just Nigen stuff, do not try to get like, do not focus yourself 100% in getting your drawings 100% perfect, because that's not the objective of the job you're doing in layout. It's different. Okay, if you're going to do second, then you kind of get a bit into it. We might do a second stream later, but honestly that's not my priority, because a lot of you guys, if you're just beginning to do animation, you will probably not do second for a couple of years. So I might have some other more important stuff to show you first, but the second stream is not out of the question, and we'll see what we do. Well, ni means two and ichi means one. Yeah, exactly. It's a Genga category. Yes, I was here. Makes sense to me, probably due to graphic design process too. I appreciate all the effort. Yeah, I appreciate that you guys are here. Let's go a bit faster so we don't delay this too much. Question: are you planning to do a video about how to be consistent in key drawing? I think we kind of touched a bit on that on the basic animation stream and the basic drawing stream. One thing I noticed is that some people find it difficult to look for very specific content on the streams that we did, because they're kind of long, like 2 hours, 3 hours. So I might do some shorter videos that I might upload from time to time with some specific like tips or stuff so that you guys can access it more easily. I'm studying that possibility. Ba, 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 ba. Jerry is saying low-key roasting Western animation. Kind of yes, but no. The college I went was very good. I'm very thankful. I choose the right college. They taught me a lot of stuff, but animation in itself was not their um their strength. They were way better on teaching us filmmaking in general than actual animation. And I learned animation more from books than from the college itself. Actually, was kind of a disaster at college while studying animation. I would just sleep all the classes. Uh, well, argue that a huge part of learning animation is self-push and self-critique with a good sense of ambition and wanting to keep doing over and over again and try to practice. Yes, that's basically it. Like, it doesn't matter if you have like the best teacher in the world or a whole like school or stuff. Like, if you don't push yourself through the process, it's not going to work because it's just a ton of work. JD is saying, why does Sonari not make feature films for themselves? Why do they only do freelance? Well, we did this, for example, like the Gura project. We did it from zero. Like, okay, we were commissioned by Whole Life, but we did all of the work. Like, we wrote the story and we did all the pre-production, so we can actually handle productions from zero. But to do productions for yourself, like doing like feature films and stuff, you need a ton of money. That's basically the reason why it's very difficult for younger studios to handle that kind of stuff. Lars is asking, what level of Japanese you have to know to get a job as an animator? Not a lot. When I began working for Japan, like a few years ago, I knew almost nothing of Japanese. Now I know just a bit more. You can use translators sometimes and stuff, but you have to be very careful to be very clear on what you're communicating, because you could commit mistakes, and that happens. But you don't have to be an expert in Japanese to be able to work for the industry. Okay, I'll leave the rest of the comments for a few minutes, and we're going back to this, or I'll get distracted. Okay. So we explained what Genga was and second key and a layout and all of that. Now I'm going to explain you what are these color sheets that you're going to get, and they look very intimidating the first time you see them, because you have no idea what they are. But I'm going to explain you so that you don't have to go through that. So, layout. You did your layout and you send it to your producer, right? And assuming everything was okay and you didn't receive any retakes, which is when the director just wants you to do it again or to correct something major, your layout will go through several phases of correction. First, the producer will just open your folder and see if everything is in order. They might read your timesheet to see if it's not a disaster. And if something is missing from your folder, they just let you know, hey, you didn't send me this specific cell, which you might have missed. But that's basically what the producer does. Then if everything is okay, the producer will send your layout to the Enchutsu. Have you guys heard of that term before? Enshutsu, again, is a term that cannot be directly translated from Japanese, but it is very similar to film director. And for practical purposes, the Enshutsu is the director of the episode you're working on, or the production in general. For example, if it is a short or something like that, or a music video, the director is the Enshutsu. There's going to be the episode. So the Enshutsu will look at your stuff, your layout. He will go through your timesheet and he will look at all of your drawings to see if everything is kind of working. And he might do some very rough corrections that have to do with mainly narrative. Okay, Inchutsu is preoccupied with he wants your cut to be understandable and to transmit what the episode or the story needs. Okay, so he might I don't know, he might change the expression of some of the characters, for example, to match the mood better, or he might move some elements around. He might also correct your perspective. He will most likely alter your timesheet at some point too. It's very, very common. He will just say like, okay, this action should be, I don't know, 6 frames after or before the place it is now. So he might alter your timesheet. And the corrections he will send you are going to be generally in a pink color. Like this. And in your folder, you'll see this pink sheet. These are the director corrections, the Enshutsu corrections. Okay. Sometimes it will also, they could also be in kind of a petrol green color, something like that. This one is also very, very common, but generally is pink or this green color. Okay, they mean the same. They're exactly the same. They're just different sheets, different studios use. Okay, we at Tonari we generally use the pink one. After that, the director will alter the timesheet, do a couple of these, but they will not send it directly to you generally. After this, your cut will go through the Sakan, which I guess a lot of you guys have already heard about. Now, the Sakan is also a term that kind of creates a bit of confusion sometimes. Generally, when the media or I don't know, YouTubers or stuff like that, they translate Sakan as animation director. But that's honestly not the best term to describe the Sakan. The Sakan is an abbreviation of Sakuga Kantoku. Now, Kantoku also kind of means director, but it means kind of more managerial director. It's a different type of director from Enshutsu, but in general, it means director. But Sakuga, it doesn't necessarily mean animation. Again, it's a term that's very hard to translate accurately, but it means kind of, it's more like drawing or like sketch or rough drawing. So more than animation director, the Sakans are kind of drawing directors, which, if we want to translate this to Western animation, they're basically model checkers. If you come from Western animation, the Sakan is the closest that we have to a model checker, which is different to an animation director. This is going to be a bit of a tangent, but I'm going to kind of explain you what an animation director is, so that you guys have this like very clear. A classic animation director, as it was like envisioned in the West, is generally a guy that is present in the production from the very beginning, like from pre-production, and that kind of decides how the animation world that you're building is going to work in terms of physics and acting and stuff like that. Like, for example, how do characters move? Are they kind of cartoony, or are they more solid? How, for example, how strong is gravity? Like, can characters just like float around, or they are always like very realistically like attached to the ground? That's the kind of thing that animation directors are concerned in the West, and like classically. And they generally correct the animation later. Like they go and they change your poses, and they erase some drawings, and they change your timesheet and stuff. In the West, I mean, in the East, in Japanese animation, the person that does that is the Enshutsu. So the closest thing that we have to an animation director actually is not the Sakan, it's the Enshutsu. The Enshutsu is the guy that's going to get rid of some of your poses and change your expressions and your timesheet. The Sakan doesn't really do that. The Sakan just corrects your drawings to make them look more like the model sheet, or to make them more according to what the Enshutsu told them in the corrections. Okay, this is getting a bit confusing, I know, but it will be very evident when I show you the cuts in just a bit. Okay, and the Sakan generally will make kind of yellow, orangey sheets for their corrections, which are here. See, these are very yellow, but sometimes they are a bit darker and stuff like that. But in general, yellow is Sakan. Okay. Now, there's two possibilities after it goes through the Sakan. They already corrected your drawings. Because remember that layout is very rough. Now, when you go through Sakan, the characters are looking a lot more like they're going to look at the end of the production. Now, there's two possibilities. They will take all of this and send it back to you so that you can do your Genga, or it might go through an extra correction phase, which is the Soul Sakan. The Soul Sakan is basically the most senior Sakan around at that time of the production. Hopefully, he will be, or she will be, the person who designed the characters, the person who actually did the model sheets. Hopefully it will be the same person. So, character designer, maybe. Sometimes it's not possible to get that person, so they might choose another Soul Sakan. It's also very common. basically what the Sakan will do, he will take what the Sakan made and he will correct what the Sakan made. So it's another layer of correction just to make the characters look even better. Okay? And the Sosakan generally uses something like a very light green for cheats. Something like this, or maybe even lighter. Something like this. At the beginning, you might confuse the green of the Sosakan with the green of the Enchutsu, which happened to me a couple of times. But then you begin to notice that the Sosakan is always way lighter. Okay, and here you can see we have Sosakan corrections in the folder that they sent us. And after this, they basically send it back to you. Like there's no more corrections or stuff to do for your layout before they send it to you so that you can do your Genga. Okay, so after all of this, they'll just send it back to you so that you can do your Genga. Again, this will be very, very clear in just a minute when I show you the cut, and we'll go through all of this, and you'll see what each one of those do. Now, let me read the chat a bit again. Chat is asking, is the Sakan process after Genga? Well, as I show you, there's a Sakan process before Genga, and there might also be a process of Sakan after Genga, which is called Genga Sakan. But we're getting like a bit ahead of us at this time, so let's not focus on that yet. Shiro Otaku is asking, how much time do you spend to work on 1 minute anime work for Genga jobs? 1 minute is very, very, very long. Generally, the cuts that you work on are just a couple of seconds long. So a minute is a ton of work, generally. Especially if it's several different cuts. I think the longest cut I ever did was around... it was like 15 seconds or 20 seconds, something like that. It was a cut I did for One Direct. That's the longest single cut I've worked on. And it was only like 15 to 20 seconds. If it's a minute, imagine the amount of work that you're going to do. It would be only more than a week of work to do Genga for a minute of animation. Mayuri is saying, we get our files sent on Gigafile. It's okay when you know how it works. Yeah, they also send me almost all the time the stuff from Gigafile. The thing is, I cannot upload to Gigafile myself because it's, for some reason, it's just too slow. Maybe they just don't like our servers and something like that. So I use Drive, and that's okay. I'm saying I enjoyed the long streams. Maybe encoding the VOD would help with locating specific topics. Yeah, I think I should learn how to do that. I don't know right now how to do that, but maybe I should figure out how. That would be useful. Indiana is asking, hello, can I ask a question? Which is the most standardized animation program on the anime industry or the studios use? They want to work for them. Thank you. The most used is Clip Studio Paint. The second most used is TV Paint, the one I'm using here. Clip Studio Paint is probably like 80% of the market, and TV Paint is the other 20%. And after that, the other ones are really not that important, like Toon Boom or Krita or stuff like that. Like they are useful, but almost no one uses them for Japanese animation. Hirotaka is saying, watch Shirobako anime. You can learn the production from there too. Yeah, you can learn some stuff from Chirobako. I don't know if it's the most like um Chirobako is more for production, I guess, for like what the PAs go through. There's another very good, it's a manga that's called Animeta, it's basically animator, which deals more with what the animators do, and it's very good actually. It goes through layout and sakan and second key and in between. That's it's actually very good. I like it more than Shirobako actually. Uh, um, this was asking, are sakan usually the character designer? No, no. Sakan could be just pretty much anyone. Hopefully sakans are very experienced guys, like guys that draw very well or very experienced animators. The one that's generally the character designers is the Soul Sagan, because it's just one person, right? You have in a production you have several Sagans, like 10 or 15 Sagans, and you have only one Soul Sagan or two maybe. Horse asking, are you going to put this diagram of the Sagan stuff on the Sakura Foundry server? Um, maybe I could do a better one. I know there's already some of these diagrams going around, but if you guys need, I might do an extra one for you, so it's more accessible. I also thought the green is the series director. Not necessarily. It depends. Sometimes that might actually be something. The series director being the green one, and the Enshutsu being the pink one. That's actually a good question. Something I haven't heard about. Maybe I'll research it. But basically, for again, for practical purposes, either pink or dark green is the director. Is the director you're dealing with, okay? You will probably never receive a pink one and a dark green one in the same folder. That almost never happens. Or probably never happens. That would be very weird. You either receive one or the other. And you always know it's the director. Arif is asking, to create complex effects, I usually use a straight ahead method, but is that allowed in Genga? It's allowed in layout. In layout is when you decide like where your keys are and if you're going to do straight ahead or pose to pose. In Genga, you basically do not concern yourself with the animation itself, like with the timing and all of that. That's already sealed from the corrections. But yeah, if you're animating effects and stuff on layout or first key, then yes, you can decide if you want to do it straight ahead or stuff like that. Effects animation, like I don't know, fire, explosions, or electricity and stuff like that, they generally are done straight ahead, just because it ends up being more dynamic. If you do it pose to pose, it might end up looking weird or kind of boring. Shadow is asking, how long have you been in the animation industry? It depends how much do you consider industry. I generally began working, like doing animation, from when I started college. Like at some point I was already working, but in general it's around like 10 years, I guess, since I began like dedicating all my time to animation. For Japanese animation, it's way more recent, but I don't know how, honestly, how many years it's been. It was pre-pandemic. I was before the pandemic. I was already working for several months for Japan exclusively. But before that, I was working on Western animation for some time too. Okay, let's go a bit faster. we'll be left with our time. Um, Toon Boom is an animation suite. It does the whole production in one software. Kind of, kind of. Toon Boom is kind of weird because they try to redefine the whole production process, and they made a software for each of the phases that they thought animators would use. Like you have the storyboard software that some people use for layout, and then you have Harmony, and then you have other softwares after that. It's not just one software. It's, as this person said, it's a suite of softwares. But again, Toon Boom has its own vision of how a production should be, which is not the same as the ones we use uh, in Japan or in the West in general. Um, when you If you are going to do a movie and you decide to use like Toon Boom or Harmony, you kind of have to decide if you're going to use your own production processes, or you're going to go full Toon Boom Harmony processes, which I think have its advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, it's kind of a big topic. Uh, a non-anime lover saying, "Hello, I'm from India. Love doing animation. Can you tell some tips to improve fast? Uh, draw a lot. um, you can watch the basic drawing and animation streams that we already have, and I think those are the most condensed tips that I can give you. They're there. So there I have like the exercises and stuff you can do. But man, great to see people from all over the world. I like imagining all of the countries your guys are from. India's very far away from my country. Amos is saying, have you ever tried doing Sakan work on anime? If so, what was your experience? Yeah, I've done Sakan for a long time. For Japan in general, and for Western productions, like Western anime productions, I've done a lot of Sakan. It's not that easy at the beginning. I looked my first Sakans and they're kind of terrible, but now I think I got a hold of it. So I do Sakan regularly. AP saying, freelancers only work on one segment of the animation production, usually rough draft animation. It depends. Freelancer animators work on generally Genga. Like as I said, like if you're working with an animation studio, they generally assume you will do the whole Genga process, like layout, first key, and second key. But in the anime industry, almost everyone is a freelancer. Even directors and sakans are freelancers. So it's more general than just like the guy that does the layout. Sean is asking, hey, is it common for the same person to do both layout and Genga? Yes, that's the ideal, honestly. Or is it more common for layout work to go to someone else first? What might happen, and this is why this stream is very important, is because second key is generally the first job that you'll get when you get into the industry. When you're just beginning and you don't have like a big portfolio, the producer from the studio will generally contact you to do second key, because it's a good way to test your skills, and it's also a good way to train you to be more detailed in your work and to learn the production a bit before throwing you directly to layout, which is a bit more risky for new people. Okay, quickly, can I ask you, how did you have the opportunity to get into the anime industry? I'll love someday to see my name on the credits of an anime. Um, how did that happen? Uh, so I spent like 2 years trying to get into the anime industry before actually getting there. Back then, it was way more difficult. Now it's way easier to get into the anime industry because they're just so desperate for animators. Before it was more difficult. I think the most important thing that I did was joining a community. I found this community of animators that existed at the time, and a lot of people there helped me. And I also got into a couple of animation collabs, like fan animations with some animators, and I think that's where some producers like noticed that I was doing animation, and they contacted me. Greens from Colombia and from Portugal. Nice. So I should ask you more frequently where are you guys from. Greens for Poland, and you're from Ukraine. What a good combination there. I have a couple of friends from Poland. Maybe I should visit sometime. Um, okay, enough questions. Let's keep going before you guys forget what we have been talking about, or before I forget. So let's go to a cut. So that will probably be the best way to show you. Again, this is a this is a cut from the Guru video that we did at Tonari, and I'm going to kind of show you in order all this stuff, like how this corrections like developed, so that you can see the difference. Okay, so I'm going to turn off first, and we're left with the layout. This is what you sent your producer, like let's assume like a month ago, something like that. This is what you sent them, and it's what I showed you in the last couple of games. So what do we have here? We have the background. We have the cells, which is only one because this is a tome. Um, it's only one drawing. They don't move. We have a couple of books, which again are like extra layers of the background, which are not necessarily attached to the background, but are painted by the background people. So, what's the first thing that happened here? We received a correction from the director. Um, Again, disclaimer: the director in this production was me. So the person that wrote all of this was me. Okay, but I'm just acting like it wasn't me. Okay. Uh, so I told them that let's read it. G, please don't make the horizontal line so flat, because it was very flat here. Also, not so many small umbrellas. It makes the beach look infinite and weird. I it's been some time since I read this. So funny. Um, and the other note that we got for the background is the sandcastles do not need to be a book. Remember that we got the sandcastles separated from the background. I basically told them that it wasn't necessary to separate them. Like they are not really touching the characters. Like they're not in front of the characters, so they can just be part of the background. Okay, so that's one correction. It might sound funny, like the notes that I'm sending them, but this is actually the kind of notes that you will receive from the director. And the level of the drawing is also very common. Like the directors only have a few minutes to correct each cut, so they are very sketchy. I was very sketchy on this. This is the kind of quality you'll get from your director. In Japanese, obviously, but again, this was a Western production, so it's written in English. And we got another correction. I told them to move Gura a bit to the left. See, just to get the composition a bit nicer. I moved her a bit, and I fixed this drawing of Miko, this character. I added a few stuff that were missing, but again, very very roughly, just just enough to give the Sakan the information they need to correct the models later. So the director did this couple of corrections, and then it was sent to the Sakan. And the Sakan is supposed to take your rough drawings from the layout and make them look more like the model sheet. Now I should bring the model sheets. So these are the model sheets we did for the Gura pre-production. It has enough information for us to kind of learn how to draw the character, and yeah, basically that. it's basically that. It's just to teach us how to draw the character. You generally will not get something like this. This is more for later, for paint. You'll probably not get the color sheet, but you will get all of this, or at least you should. Sometimes productions are kind of a mess, and they will send you very minimal sete. But at least you should get one looking like this with the shadows, telling you how to shade the character, and this amount of detail is like the minimum you should get. Color you might get sometimes, but generally not. It's not necessary. Dates, production thinks it's not necessary, honestly, but it is appreciated when you're animating. It is actually useful to have like the color character, especially if you haven't seen the character before. If you don't know how the character looks with color, it's useful to have it because it basically gives like three-dimensionality to the character. It helps you to draw it better. But a lot of productions most likely will not send you a color sheet of the character. Sometimes because it doesn't exist, they haven't made it yet. But if, for example, I receive sete and I know that the color sheets exist because I've seen them before, I could ask the producer to send me the color sheets just for extra reference. And it has the different clothes, shadows, expressions, and some drawing like notes, or how to minimize the eyes, for example, when she's closer or farther away from the screen. This is the kind of stuff, the minimum information you should get when you're animating. Again, sometimes you'll get way less, but hopefully it doesn't happen. So, why are we talking about the setting? Because I want you to compare how the drawing looked before on layout and how it looks now after the Sakan. This one it looks way closer to the sete, right? This is actually a very, very good Sakan correction. The Sakan that did this was pretty good. Let's compare it. Activate and deactivate. Now the Sakan might not only correct the model in itself. They might also correct a bit of the pose and stuff like that, but generally no more than that. Again, Sakans are not really animation directors, so they'll focus more on the drawing itself rather than changing the pose or stuff like that. And for this other character didn't have, I guess, this character only appears in this cut, and it didn't have a whole sete done for them. So we just proceed and corrected what it wasn't right at the moment. Like for example, this. Uh, to me, when I went through this, so I said like, okay, it's 90% there. So we changed the glasses and we added a bit of detail, and the Sakan just basically did the drawing better, and now it looks way more solid. Now you might be thinking, when you first begin like receiving corrections and stuff, it might be perceived as kind of aggressive that someone will just redraw all of your stuff, but that's not the way you should look at it. um, Again, the purpose of layout is not to get the character 100% on model. The purpose of layout is getting the composition okay, and the relationship with between all of the layers okay, and doing your first key animation and getting the timing all right. But the model is not 100% your priority. That comes in Sakan. If you spend more time doing like trying to get your model 100% right on layout, you'll probably take forever. And layout is supposed to be done quickly. You should not spend a lot of time trying to get it perfect. That's basically it. Because the Sakan is going to change it anyway. So we saw the comparison. They are pretty different, but the essence is still there, right? But after this drawing is again very good and very, very detailed. But after this, we send it to the Sosakan. And the Sosakan did very, very subtle corrections to the Sakan. Oh, wait a second. All right, something's happening outside. I don't know what's happening, but I'll try not to get it too much into the microphone. Okay, what we were saying. After the Sakan, even though the drawing was all right, and as I said, it's pretty good, we sent it to the Sosakan, and the Sosakan did very, very subtle corrections. Let's compare this one. It, at first sight, it almost doesn't change. But for example, the Sosakan added the teeth. See, and changed the mouth shape a bit, and he changed a bit of the eyes. You can see the width of these lines. It changed again, very, very, very subtle. And luckily, as I mentioned before, our Sosakan is the same person that did the model sheet. So that's basically the best Sosakan you can get for any production. And this person was Yoshi Kirishima, which was our character designer. Yoshi is a guy that follows his own model sheet 100%. Because there's other Sosakans that will basically do whatever they want. It happens sometimes that you send them some drawings like from layout that you think they're really okay. Then they send it to the Sakan and they kind of improve it a bit, but they still look like the drawing. But then they send it to the Sosakan, and the Sosakan basically does whatever they want. Generally for the best. Like the the drawings generally end up looking even better. But the Sosakan is it. He has the last word on how the characters should look. So if the Sosakan wants to go off model, they can. Again, always for the improvement of whatever you're doing. Again, look at the detail that this Sosakan correction has. Like for example, on here on Miku's feet, just the tiniest curves that you think will not be important, Yoshi still corrected them, and it ended up looking great. I think that was one of the secrets of how this video ended up looking so good, that we had Yoshi and a very, very good team of Sakans working consistently with us. And he said, there's a little note here, like add rest of shadows to Sakan. This is what I'm going to explain now. So basically, you got all of these files, all of these corrections, but now you have to use them to do your Genga, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. Before that, let me read this chat a bit. Oh, more people. Norway, Malaysia, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica. It's so funny. It's so fun to see where you guys are from. I will ask you in every stream. I'm saying this is such a crazy revelation personally. What's the crazy part? Well, I guess everything for people that are just learning. The animation community is so huge and loyal. Huge, yes. Loyal, I guess. Loyal to whom? Emilia is saying, for second training, should I watch the video about basics of drawing, or can I watch the live from 3 years ago? I haven't watched the live, I guess, from 3 years ago. I don't know if I haven't watched it or I watched it a long time ago, but I don't really remember what's there because I didn't make it myself. The basic drawing stream will always help you with either working on layout or Genga or Sakan. Those exercises will always help you. Again, I might do a Sakan stream later to explain you like what the Sakan is thinking when they are correcting your drawings, but again, it's not one of the priorities yet because there's more stuff to show you before that. Chirotaku is saying, is the Discord already dead? I don't think it's dead. Are you talking about the Sakura Foundry Discord? It's not dead. The thing is, we stopped doing the Animatsuki submissions for some time because the moderators of Sakura Foundry are actually animators and they're very busy. So I guess they had to stop for a bit, but it's coming back this September, so you might see more activity there. I saying, so yellow detail and green super detail? Basically yes. Yeah, you could see it that way. Again, this Sakan and Sosakan sheets that I'm showing you are very, very detailed. Sometimes you will get very rough Sakan, which is also okay. Like, Sakan doesn't have to be 100% super detailed, but yeah, you might get either one of both. Sometimes a very detailed one or a very rough one. JP is asking, what's the resolution like for model sheets like that? I don't really know. I could show you maybe. But there's no like a big standard of of the resolution. I've gotten very small setting and very big setting. This one is actually kind of big. This is the full size. Do you want to know the resolution? Well, this one is 600 dpi. It's very, very big, but that's probably just something that Yoshi did. As I said, I've gotten big settings like this one and some smaller one. Studios generally have their own templates for setting. I know Tonari has one, but I haven't used it because I'm not a character designer. Yeah, that might be something interesting to research eventually. But again, I don't think it is as fixed as for layout or something else. Dosakan more like Soul Sakan. That's a good comparison. Shadow is asking, did you remember what WXP means? I remember part of it. XP is exposure, but I don't remember what the W means. Thank you for reminding me though. I should look for it again. Bertha's asking, was there a minimum model sheet for freerun, or did the animators take the liberties with tiny freerun? It didn't work on freerun, sadly. So I don't know what kind of materials they got. What? I don't even remember what studio did freerun. Was it IG? Or no, it wasn't IG. What studio was freerun? I don't remember. What it is saying, I think WXP means double exposure. Yeah, I also think so, but I was trying to remember the exact word, like the W. I is saying wide exposure? Is that what it means? Is it wide exposure? If you know that's the actual answer, send me some details because I want to know. I really do not remember. Why is it wide? What does it actually means? Let me know because I'm actually curious. Oh, it was Madhouse. I think I haven't worked for Madhouse, so I don't know what kind of materials they send you. Yeah, sorry, I cannot tell you. Maybe I could ask someone who have worked on freerun. Nah, I don't know. Okay, you got me there. I thought that was the one. Isn't it white balance? I don't think so. It doesn't ring the bell in my head. Because again, I knew what it meant, but I don't remember now. But I don't think it had anything to do with white balance. Again, I'll try to remember to ask around if someone remembers what it meant. Okay, let's go back to the cut. Here's something important. Once you get your folder with all of your stuff, you'll have to make a new file to process all of your corrections. And you will have to file these corrections in the right order so you can do your Genga. And the right order is the order that the production made the corrections. So again, let's go from the bottom. And when I mean pile, I mean in layers, like this one. You see there's one layer over the other, and they're in order of the production, but I'll go through them again. So you'll have generally you'll only have your cells, not the background. This is important. When you are doing Genga or second key or Nigen, you do not process the background. You only take care of the cells. Okay, do not forget that. That's a big question that everyone asks at the beginning. Like, should I touch the background? No, you should not touch the background unless the background has something like interacting with the character, like a kumi or something like that, which is like a register or like a cutout. But that generally doesn't happen. So in general, you do not touch the background when you're doing Genga. This correction that we received for the background is for the background team. It's not for the person that's doing Genga. Okay? So we can kind of get rid of this. So we're taking care of the cells. We can get rid of the books that were here. And then on top of the cell, we're going to put the director correction, okay? To see, so that we don't miss any of the corrections that they made, okay? Sometimes the Sakan will have implemented all of the corrections in their cheats, but sometimes they don't. And you'll have to look back at the Enchutsu correction so that you don't miss any of the correction. Okay, so we put the Enchutsu cheat with the rough corrections, and then we put the Sakan on top of it, and on top of that we put the Soul Sakan. Okay, that's the order that you should pile your layers from top to bottom, because what we're going to do now is we're going to trace. Okay, why we're going to trace? Because these corrections are very final looking. They're so detailed and so good that we basically don't have anything to invent or to figure out in this specific cut. Oh, wait a second. There's a lot of noise outside. Yes. Okay. So these corrections are very detailed. So when corrections are this level of detail, you can just trace them. Okay. It might sometimes even say like, use this correction as Genga. They might have like a little Japanese notation, which means that you can just trace them or without changing anything. But as you might notice, again, the Sosakan only corrected some parts of the drawing, and the other parts are on the second drawing. So what we're going to do, this is going to make sense very soon. We're going to begin tracing from the top layer, from the Sosakan. We're going to get all of the information we can from the Sosakan drawing, and then when we get to the parts that are not present in the Sosakan drawing, we're going to jump to the second drawing and use the information from the second drawing to complete our drawing. And then if the second didn't correct the whole drawing, which is not the case in this one, we jump back to either the Enshutsu or the layout, and then we complete our drawing. You see, we end up having a drawing that is a combination of all of the corrections that the people from the studio gave you. Okay? If I'm confusing you, don't worry, because I'm going to give you a demonstration. We have been here for a bit more than an hour. I think we're going to be able to do some of the work in this cut. But the thing is, doing second key or Nigen or Genga is actually very, very slow. Why is that? Because look at how detailed the drawings are. In layout, we could be rough and kind of don't worry about the lines and stuff like that. But in Genga, we have to be this level of detail. And bear in mind that this cut only has one drawing. Most cuts have a ton of drawings, and you have to do the same process for all of them. So compared to layout, Nigen could take you double or triple the time to do. I would say that in general, a layout takes me around 2 to 4 hours to do, to me. Nigen probably will take me twice the time, just because of the amount of detail. But yeah, it's not it's not pretty. I think there's advantages and disadvantages, like with everything. For one, it will take a lot of time, and some people do not like doing Nigen, because it takes a lot of time, and they generally pay you less than layout. It kind of sucks, honestly. The advantages of doing Nigen is that you get the drawings from the director and the Sakan, which are very, very good to learn. That's why most animators eventually value doing their own Genga, because they get the corrections from their own cuts, and they can see, oh, this is what I could have done better, according to the director or the Sakan or the Sosakan. And then you learn a lot very fast when you can get that information. That's the advantage of doing Nigen, even though it takes a lot of time and it doesn't pay that well. The other advantage is that, this is kind of personal, but Nigen is kind of more relaxing to do than layout, because in layout you have to think a lot. You have to be aware of a lot of stuff that's happening with the layout. In Nigen, you generally don't have to think a lot. You just have to follow the instructions and trace a lot, and it's a lot of work, but it's a bit more relaxing because you don't have to think a lot. That's my very, very personal appreciation of Nigen. Kind of the stuff that I tell myself when I have to do Nigen and I have no choice. Like, okay, at least I don't have to think that much. Okay, let me read a couple of comments, and we'll begin. Isla's art is saying, in Spanish, I'm going to translate. There's a strong storm here, and the light has gone off 3 times. In intervals of 1 or 3 minutes. Yeah. It happened sometimes to me when I was working too. Like, there will be a storm and the light will go off, and it would just. Thankfully, I work with a notebook, so if the lights go off, I have a few minutes to just save my stuff. But if you're working with just a normal PC, it's very dangerous to get the lights to go off, because it can do damage to your computer and you will lose everything that you were doing. So you have to be careful. Guy saying light table retrace? No, we will almost not use the light table here. We'll use just the opacity of the layers. I'm going to show you. They're saying, and a timesheet 1 minute. Yes. Timesheets are very fast, around a minute to do. Okay, let's begin seeing how we're going to do our Nigen / second key / Genga. So I'm going to select a brush that's kind of looks like this one. I think this one, people always ask me about the brushes I use. I generally use just 2 brushes. I use this one and this one. They're basically the same, but with different widths. And I don't use anti-aliasing most of the time. Why? Because it's just easier to process for me, because I can paint and it feels instantly. But in this specific case, these lines are very thin. Probably because just Yoshi prefers it that way. I don't remember. Maybe this we were working on a lower resolution. So I'm going to get a thinner brush, as thin as I can. And I think I'll probably have to use anti-aliasing now. But the thing is, you'll have to try to match the brush that looks kind of final. Let me try to. Okay, this one looks a lot more like this one, and it's a good size to in comparison to the screen, let's say. One thing to have in mind is that your Nigen drawing is not the final drawing that's going to appear on screen. Nigen is not the final cleanup. The final cleanup is done after Nigen, where someone is going to take your drawing and is going to retrace everything again. And they are going to then do the in-betweens, and then it's going to go to paint. But the Nigen that we're going to do now is still not going to be the final drawing. Okay? So you have to be detailed. The most important thing in Nigen is that you give the person that comes after you single line to follow. Okay? In Nigen, you cannot do this. You see, that's too ambiguous. They will have difficulty like following this line. You have to give them one line. That's the big change between like layout quality and Nigen quality. You have to give them one line to follow. Okay, so we have like a suitable brush. Some people will tell you that you have to use pressure for this. I don't think it's 100% necessary. I generally do not use pressure. I've talked about this a lot because it just makes my hand slower, because you have to actually put pressure into the pen, and it makes your hand move slower. And also, it's very bad for your wrist. Using pressure is very bad for your wrist, and it's generally not needed. You can see here, Yoshi almost didn't use any pressure on this. You can see some pressure at some point, but it's actually they're very uniform lines. So for Nigen, you can choose to use pressure or not. How would it look with pressure? It's so, the brush is so small that it's going to look pretty much the same. Sometimes if you haven't done clean work for a long time, your hand will be like not very used to do precision work, so you might want to use pressure just to make your lines more precise. Okay, because that's one of the disadvantages of not using pressure, that your lines might not be as precise, but you'll get used anyway. So you see, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to begin tracing the Sosagan first. Okay, I'm going to get as much information from the Sosagan as I can, and then when we have no more information left, we're going to jump to the Sagan and get the information from there. I'm just going to begin tracing. It's generally good that you begin tracing the black lines first, because you have a lot of colors here. You have shadows and highlights and gradients and stuff, all of these colors. Begin with the black ones. Then I'll show you how to do the shadows, because they have different ways to approach them. But begin with the black ones so that you don't get lost. One thing that's very important and that you will get with time is the ability to do natural curves. What do I mean by natural curves? A curve that comes from your wrist. So the human brain is very very used to liking stuff that look more natural. Like the brain is very good at recognizing when something comes from nature and when something is trying to look like nature. That's kind of one of our deepest instincts. So the brain actually can subconsciously recognize when a curve was done with your wrist instead of doing something like this and trying to do a curve, like trying to imitate a curve. It's very different, and the brain will notice. So if with time you will learn to do cleaner curves and to use your wrist so that your drawings will look way better when you learn to do this. Some people might think, especially if you come from an art school, that you think from your wrist. Like, I thought you had to draw with your elbow. I mean, with your shoulder, because that's what they teach you in art class. It depends. Like it honestly depends on the position you have when working. Here, if you want to see how I'm working, I'm basically standing in the same way that my model is standing or sitting in front of this tablet thingy. I'm basically in the same position, so I can only use my wrist, but that's good enough. Like, using my shoulder would probably tire me a lot or require a lot of practice. You see, it comes from your wrist. And I'm also moving my arm a bit. It's not like I'm only using my wrist. But I'm trying to make these lines as long as possible without any interruption, so that they look natural and nice. And of course, if you mess up and the line just fails, you can just erase it and do it again. It eventually gets very fast too. Like, here I'm trying to be careful, and I'm also talking to you, so I'm a bit slower than normal. But if I was like 100% concentrated on doing this, I would probably do it very fast. And in this case, I am using pressure actually. Why? Because I haven't done Nigen in ages. So the pressure is actually helping me a bit. But again, this brush is so small that the pressure is not even noticeable in the drawing. Again, you see here in the eye, you see a lot of colors and stuff. We're going to ignore them for now until we finish all of the black that we can get. In just a minute, I'm going to stop for a bit. I'm going to read your comment. If you have any questions, leave them there. Again, this might look, maybe for some of you, a bit fast. Like I'm going faster than normal. But bear in mind that we haven't even finished her face. We have all the rest of the drawing to do. And again, this is just one drawing. other cuts have dozens of drawings, and you still have to do the same process. That's something else that a lot of people ask me. When you're doing layout, I told you in the layout stream that you only have to shadow the most important poses of your layout, like the poses that are more important either in composition terms or in narrative terms. Okay, you can select, okay, this is the most important pose of this character, I'm going to shadow just this drawing. For second key, you don't have that option. You have to shade everything. Every single drawing has to have shadows and highlights, and they have to be equally as detailed. You no longer can choose. The only drawings that you can decide not to shadow are in-between guides, because that's the job of the in-betweener. But all of the keys, all of the extremes, you have to shadow and highlight all of them. So be prepared for that. I have some horror stories about like terrible Nigen. I think that the Nigen that took me most time to do, it took me a week to do just one cut. Looking in retrospect, I wasn't very experienced, so I could probably have done it now. If I did it now, it'd probably take me like a couple of days, but it was still a ton of work. As I said, I was a whole week working in just that cut, doing Nigen. So you see here, we're approaching a space that doesn't have information. It doesn't have the drawing. So I'm going to just jump to another part until we finish this, the whole Soul Sakan sheet. I'm going to finish this part. Going to the chat to see what you're doing. Now, sometimes you might get like a big curve, like this one, for example. All of this part, that's a big curve. Like, it might be difficult sometimes to just do it in one stroke. So you can use some line tools that you probably have in your software. One. You can totally use this. I mean, you can totally use tools to help you with it, as long as it looks good in the end. It looks okay. Active. Oh, no, I lost my brush. What to do? Didn't remember to save that. Now I'm going to save it. there's a bit of difference between like the weight of the two lines. You can see that the one that we just made with the tool a bit darker because the brush was just a bit bigger. For Nigen, it doesn't matter that much, honestly. Like, you have one line and it doesn't look extremely out of place, you can just leave it like that. There's no problem. Now, if it is like destroying you because of your OCD, you can do it again. I'm not going to do it because it's just fine as it is. It's basically almost not perceptible. Because again, Nigen is not the final cleanup for your drawings. Someone else is going to take all of those drawings that you spent hours and hours doing, and they're going to retrace them again before they paint them. If you come from Western animation, Nigen is basically what you call a tie down. That's the closest comparison we can make. The only difference is that the Japanese are way more standardized in some of these processes. Like in the West, when you're working for a Western animation studio in, I don't know, a movie or something like that, they generally redefine a lot of the production processes at the beginning of each production. Like they say, okay, this production requires this and this and this. We're going to find the best way to do this process, and they kind of reinvent a lot of stuff. That's why when you begin working on different Western productions, sometimes you have to relearn how they are doing stuff. In Japanese animation, a lot of these processes are the same no matter what. So if you're doing Nigen for Tonari, it's probably the same that doing Nigen for Mappa or for Madhouse or whatever. It's going to be always the same process. And they're going to ask you the same level of detail. It's going to be the same. So that's very good because you only have to learn it once. Fine, and going to the chat. I think I need an extra monitor to read the chat because I have my pen display with T-Paint and I have my notebook monitor with the stream, but I don't have one for the chat. Looking pretty decent. Let's see how it's actually looking. This is what we have so far. Like all of this time we have been drawing, it's been only this. We still need the rest of the drawing. You can see now why it takes so long, and we don't even have the shadows and the highlights. Okay, comments. And saying, "Oh hi, I'm late. Do not apologize." If you guys are watching this pretty late, this is going to be on the YouTube. Like you'll be able to watch it on the channel, so you don't have to stay overnight to watch it. Chiro Taco saying, "I'm seeing anime. Yeah, I've been doing Nigen for like 30 years, and now I became the greatest anime." They were saying, how do you apply gradient color to the eyebrows in an animation? Sorry, I'm using Google Translate. When you're doing Nigen or layout, you don't have to do the gradient yourself. You have to show where they are though. Look, Pura actually has some gradients on her hair. This green line on the top of her head, this one, is actually a gradient. But you don't have to actually do the gradient. You just have to show where it begins. And it will be painted like this. It will be painted like this. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a difference between the white on the top of her head and this gray of her hair. The people from the painting department will paint it like this, and then the people in the compositing department, the guys that work with After Effects and all of that, they will do the gradient with their own tools. Okay, but when you're doing layout and Nigen, you don't have to do the gradient. Oh, here's another gradient. This is also a gradient that is like fused on the final product, but in all of these stages, you just show them where the gradient is. Okay, so don't worry too much about gradients. Look at the sete, see if they have some gradients that you have to notate, but do not worry about actually doing the gradient. Hirotaku is saying, "We online looks wobbly to me." Are you guys seeing them too? You mean my lines are wobbly? I've been using Weon for a lot of time, and honestly, I think it's the same as the Wacom. I've also used Wacom. I've used Cintiq before and used the normal tablets. I think they're exactly the same. Now, if you think my lines are wobbly, that's another topic. One thing that might make it look wobbly is that TV Paint, for some reason, when you rotate the canvas, it will change the geometry of the lines in the preview. You see that they're kind of vibrating. That might make it look wobbly sometimes, but honestly, I think my lines are pretty good. But again, if it's about like the brand of the tablet and stuff, no, I don't think so. Plus, all of your animation softwares, they have their own like their own line smoothing tools, like this one. I'm actually using a bit of line smoothing here, 3 in TV Paint, which is very, very low, but still something. If I turn this off, yes, my lines are going to be a bit wobbly. I've mentioned it before, not in this stream, but in other streams from Sakura Foundry, that TV Paint actually changed their the algorithm they used to do line smoothing. They changed it from TV Paint 10 to TV Paint 11. It's totally different. So I was using TV Paint 10 for years at school, and suddenly TV Paint 11 has a different line smoothing, and it was very hard to get used to it. It was very hard to get used to it, and sometimes I was so frustrated that I was just using TV Paint 10, even though I had spent like more than 1,000 euros on the new TV Paint, just because it was so frustrating that my lines were weird because the line smoothing was different. Eventually I got used to it, but it was kind of a process. I noticed on my own that minimal pressure, it is easier and faster to draw without obsessing over it. Yeah, same. Minimal pressure for me is generally the best. Again, I'm using pressure now because I haven't done Nigen in a long time, so I'm kind of getting used to it again. I thought it wouldn't be wobbly in 22 and 24, but it still see that it's diagonal in diagonal lines. I wonder. Honestly, I haven't used a Wacom in some time, so maybe the new Wacoms and the new Weons are have some different. I don't really know. I do want to change this Weon though for a Cintiq eventually, because even though the functionality of drawing is the same, Cintiqs just have better screens. They have better colors and better like deepness of color. That's probably not the they have better contrast. That's the term. The Weons are very good for drawing, but if you're going to like paint or doing like color correction or more stuff like that, Weons are not necessarily the best because their screens are very basic. So I eventually want to upgrade to a Cintiq. I just have to get all the money. And Cintiqs are so expensive. The one I want is like $3,000 or maybe more now with all the inflation. Laya is what are you doing? You're asking me. I'm doing Nigen, I guess. That's if that's what you're asking. Shirotaka is saying I have the issue with Canvas 13 on diagonal lines, so makes me wonder if it's wobbly on a higher type of Weon. I don't think my Weon has wobbly lines, honestly. You just have to get a good combination of the presets of your pen display and the presets on your drawing software. Miguel is asking, hi, have you considered using software like Sai to optimize your cleaning work? It has an excellent tool for line work. I wish that every animation software had the line tools that Sai has. I used Sai when I was very young. I actually learned to draw a lot on Sai, and I really like the line tools they have. I think Clip Studio probably has a very similar tool like that. I don't know, but in TV Paint you have one that's kind of 50% what the Sai one does, and it's still useful. But yeah, I wish all the softwares had what Sai has when it comes to lines. Okay, saying the wobbly line shows the effort and the. That's a good one. I like that way of thinking. Aman is saying, is TV Paint 11 Pro better than CSP? Better, I don't know. It's different. As I always say, TV Paint is a very simple software and very stable software that's very good for animating, especially for people that come from traditional paper animation. Like if you come from paper, going to TV Paint is very easy. CSP can basically do the same stuff, but with a different philosophy and a different history behind the software. CSP is the combination of a lot of other softwares that existed before, and they made like a big they made a big software that ended up being CSP, and it has advantages and disadvantages. I don't think one is better than the other. I prefer TV Paint because it's what I learned to use from the beginning, and I'm already very proficient on it. Someone else that grew up on Sai. I think a lot of people actually learned to use Sai. I actually bought it. I didn't pirate it. I bought it when I was very young, like a lot of time ago. Probably the older people, like late 20s and so on. Probably those people are more experienced with Sai. But yeah, Sai is a great software. It never betrayed me. never let me down. It was a great software. Um, I don't know. Like I haven't used Psy in a long time though. Is it still compatible with normal computers? Like I'm saying like in years I haven't used Psy. Shadow is saying I remember Manga Studio. Manga Studio is actually part of CSP. They're from the same company, and a lot of the modules from Manga Studio actually became modules of CSP. They're in very different aspects. They're the same software. Yeah, CSP workflows feels very different. The layers show up in a folder, and there's the timeline itself. Yeah, CSP honestly is kind of confusing to me. Like they have these folders for the layers and stuff that I don't really understand. I'm pretty sure I understood it once, like when I was really saying like I have to learn to use CSP, and I kind of understood how to use that, but then I just forgot because I kept using T. Yeah, Manga Studio is basically the same as CSP. Yeah. It's Manga Studio and other softwares. It's Manga Studio and Redis. Redis also has... CSP also has a lot of Redis on it. Yeah, it's kind of a big software made of other smaller softwares. TVPaint is different. TVPaint is a software that has grown organically, and that's why it is... in one hand, it is very stable, and in other hand, it is kind of primitive. Like, I wish some of the stuff that TVPaint has would be upgraded to be more modern, like the effects, for example, or the camera. I wish they would upgrade that kind of stuff, but I guess you can't have everything. Bert's saying, Sai has a new update for 64-bit version, so it works on modern computers. Oh, that's great. Great. Maybe I should try to use Sai again. Because I've been trying to practice like more illustration stuff, not just like flat animation stuff, like trying to use a bit more paint. But CSP still kind of confusing to me, and I don't really enjoy using it. Even on my iPad, I have CSP, my iPad, and even though everything works, I don't feel like using it. Because I just don't like CSP. Maybe I should try using I again, and it'll be the best illustrator ever. So I'm saying this is the reason why I love Clip Studio while animating. They're similar in some ways with Sai. Yeah, I guess you could say that. CSP is like a fusion of Manga Studio and Redis. Yes, it is. What's the minimum screen size you would say is good enough for professional animation? My end display is 21 inches. Even though I have no idea what an inch is. I know, but I don't use inches. I think 21 or 22 is like the best size for a pen display for me. I've used smaller Cintiqs before, like 16, I guess. That's the other, like the smaller size they have, and it was too small for me. Like I could barely use it because you have so many stuff on your animation software, like on TVPaint stuff. Like you have your timeline and your side panels, and the canvas ends up being very reduced, right? So if you use a smaller and smaller size pen display, you basically end up drawing on a very small canvas, and that kind of sucks. Also, when I was using the smaller Cintiq, which I used for like 2 days only because I just couldn't handle it, the buttons, like the switches and all of the stuff in the softwares, they were so small that it was very difficult for me to press anything. So yeah, minimum for me 22. I think there's a Cintiq 27 or something like that, which is crazy big. For me, that's too big, honestly. I used it once at a store in Japan, actually. The Cintiq 27, and it was so big that I felt like I had to stretch my arm like to get to every corner of the screen. It was kind of uncomfortable. But yeah, I think 22 is my favorite size for pen display, at least. When I get a Cintiq, I'm going to get not the bigger one. I think the 24. I think 24. I probably get that one. I'm saying 20-inch should be enough. Even 16 is good enough. I have Wii on Canvas 16. If you can work on 16, that's great. I couldn't. It wasn't for me. It was too small for me. Okay. Do we continue? We have been 2 hours here. Maybe I should talk a bit about shadows and highlights, just so we don't leave that for the very end. They're saying I have the 24 4K. I think it's the perfect size. Is that the Wion or the Wacom? Because I've thought of buying the 4K Wion, but I haven't seen it in person. So I wonder if the quality of the screen is comparable to the Cintiq one. Wion. I wish I could see the 24 the 4K Wion in person. Okay, but I don't know anyone who has it or any store. Even when I bought this Wion here in my country, they were not very available. So it was basically a bet. Like, I wasn't sure if it was the best, but it ended up being a very good tool. Okay, go back to T-Paint for a bit. See if we have enough material to show you shadows. I'm going to complete this just to show you the shadows. So look what I'm going to do. Just to show you. You can see here that Gura's banks are incomplete in Sosakan, but I want to complete them so I can show you how I'm going to do these shadows. So for a second, I'm going to go to the Sosakan, to the Sakan layer, and I'm going to use that information to complete the drawing. I didn't forget to save my brushes. And look, you have to be very careful. Look what we were missing on the Sosakan. We were missing these lines here, which were present on the Sakan one, but not in the Sosakan one. So we have this part of the hair completed. So I'm going to show you how to approach the shadows. There's basically 2 ways, depending on the software you're using or basically what you want to do. I do shadows with the fill lasso tool, which is this one here. You can see both TV Paint and CSP have it, which is basically a selection lasso which paints the content of what you did. Okay, paints the shape. This is the tool I use for shadows and highlights like all the time, and I use it like this. I'll make an extra layer. Do not make shadows and lines on the same layer. I go to an extra layer and I go to multiply, and I'll use the lasso tool to make the shape. Actually, it was actually terrible. Let me do it again. You can also do it in parts. You don't have to do the whole shape. To me, this tool is way faster than the other method. The other method is what you guys probably have done before if you try working digitally, which is just doing a line, outline. Like this. And then filling it with a paint bucket. That's the other way to do it. I do it with the fill lasso tool. Now, there's something to bear in mind though. Sometimes you'll see Nigen where the shadow is just a shape like this. It's just a shape like this, or like this. And sometimes you'll see others where the shadow is, it has a border like this. For a long time, I was just using this method. This one. I was doing everything, all the shadows and not the highlights, but all of the shadows. I was not using a border for it. But eventually after a long time, I noticed that 90% of the people were actually using a border. So I thought like, okay, it's probably best that I begin using a border, so not to be the only one that's not doing it. I still think this is correct for most cases. Like, if you do not have the time to do a border of it, it will not be the end of the world. But if you can and you get used to it, use the border. If you, for example, collect art books or keyframe books like I do, I have a ton of them, you'll open them and see both of this. Some people use borders and some do not, but 80 to 90% of the cases, they will have a border. So I think you should get used to use the border. Okay. But the thing is, doing the border, if you do it like normally, it will take you twice the time. As I told you, using the fill lasso tool is faster because you just do this and it's ready. On the other hand, if you want to use the border, then you have to do two actions basically. You do the border and then you have to go and fill it with something. It takes more time. What you can do though, you can cheat like I do. What I figured out eventually that I could do, and I'm talking for like the whole drawing, like, because if it's just like this spot here, it doesn't matter. But if you're doing like a big drawing with a ton of shadows and stuff, and it will take you a lot of time to just do the border, you can do this. Do your whatever shape that you want in one layer, then do another layer under it, then go to your paint bucket. Make sure your paint bucket is set in above, so it's taking information from the layer above the layer you're using, and then go to expand and press and input like 1 or 2 pixels of expand and use this tool, you'll make a border for it. And then you can just combine the two layers, and then you have all of your shadows with borders. That's the way I do it now. Because I'm too lazy to do the border for all of this stuff. Like, honestly, it would take a lot of time. It would take considerably more time to do the border by hand. Now I just do this, and it works, and it's fast. So that's a little tip there. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. One of the most useful tools that I've ever used is the base color. Yeah, lasso is way faster. I think that CSP might have a tool or a preset for the fill lasso that allows you to do the shape with an outline. I'm not sure, but I think it might exist. TV Paint doesn't have it. So if you're using CSP, or you can try to find out if it's possible. If not, you can use this method and it will work. Jerry is saying, what I don't like about drawing borders is filling tiny line work gaps. Yeah, that also sucks. I don't like it either. As I said, I don't like drawing like the borders and then filling them with a ink bucket. I think it doesn't end up looking that good, and it takes a lot of time. Miguel is saying, someone could animate and clean up in any software. The important thing would be to deliver the image sequence in PNG, TGA, or whatever format the studio requested. Would it be something like this? It depends. If you're doing Nigen, you basically can use any software you want, because you're already not concerned about like timing and stuff, or the animation itself. I guess you could use any software you want, as long as you export the file the right way. Like, make sure the software you're using doesn't alter the resolution or stuff like that. You have to be very careful with that. And for Nigen, you have to export either a PNG or a JPEG. If you're doing Doga, which is the actual final cleanup, you have to export in TGA. That's the industry standard for Doga files. TGA. Okay. You're saying, and somehow the bucket sensitivity tool always gets the things wrong. Yeah. Yeah, I think CSP has some like more advanced tools that allow you to like very smartly with software to fill those gaps somehow. Like, I've seen that in some demonstration, but honestly I think that also takes a lot of time, so I just try to do it the simplest way I can. Oh, another thing that's important that I would like you guys to understand. Okay, we're doing shadows, right? If you're working digitally on Nigen, make sure your shadows are spots of color, like solid colors, like this one. If it has like if it has border or not, like, that's not what I'm talking about, because some people will do it like this. Okay, some people will do this. They will do the outline, of the shadow, and then they will do this. They will paint. They will not paint. They will kind of scratch the interior of the zone to make it look like a solid color. Basically, this make it more. They will do this. In my opinion, that's not the best way to do it. When you're working on paper and working with just pencils, you basically do not have a choice. You have to do something like this when you're doing your shadows. But when you're doing it digitally, it actually adds a lot of noise into the image, like a lot of useless visual information that can really create some confusions, and it basically makes your drawing more confusing to look, less solid. So if you're working digitally, please do not do this. There's no need to do this. Like, you can doing it with a solid color is faster and it looks way better. So please do not scratch the interior of your shadows, because it doesn't look good and it takes a lot of time. Okay, what else could we talk about? Man, I told you this takes a lot of time. Like, I know I've been talking a lot, but it's not way faster either. Maybe I should continue doing this for a few minutes, so I can show you just the progression so that you get used to it. And I want to do a second stream where I will show you how this works when you have more frames, because this is a still. This is just one drawing, and we have it's taken us a lot of time to do it. But when you have more drawings, is 10 times more difficult, and there's other stuff that you have to pay attention to. So that's going to be the second stream for Nigen. We're going to try to make a cut with more poses. And I say try because I don't know if we will be able to do it in 2 or 3 hours, because it will take a lot of time. But I will show you basically what you have to do. What else would be important to talk about? I know. If you are used to look at Genga drawings on the internet and stuff like that, you might notice that they sometimes have very different colors. Sometimes the shadows, for example, on the hair, sometimes they are blue. Blue is like the universal color for shadows. If you see pale blue, like this one, no. If you see pale blue on an animation drawing, is very most likely a shadow, because that's the universal color for shadows. But sometimes you'll find stuff like this. Pink shadows for the hair, or green shadows for the hair. Have you guys noticed? In fact, if you look at the thumbnail of this stream, you'll see that the shadows on my model's hair are pink. Just so that you see that we can use different colors of shadows. Whether this happened, it depends on the character designer, honestly. Sometimes characters have a lot of different zones, like hair shadows and clothes shadows and skin shadows and stuff like that. Sometimes they have a lot of these zones and they overlap a lot. So character designers decide to use different colors for the shadows so that they don't get visually mixed. It doesn't confuse people. Sometimes you will also see, like, again, if you collect like art books and stuff for for keyframe animation, you'll see the same character, for example, in one cut with blue shadows, and in another cut, you'll see them with pink shadows or other color. Honestly, for Nigen, it is valid to use different colors sometimes. Sometimes you'll see people doing Nigen with only blue shadows. Or sometimes you will see them using all of these different shadows. How to know what is the best for your case is very simple. Just look at your setting. The model sheets that they sent you from the studio are the safest way to proceed with this. Like, if you really want to know the difference, like what colors you should totally use the ones on the setting. Again, if you maybe, it happens a lot when you're doing Nigen on a rush, like they need the Nigen right now, you don't have the time to do all of the different kinds of colors that the setting is using. So you might use a couple of them. You might do all of the shadows in blue, for example, of all of the zones, and all of the highlights in red and yellow, which is like the universal color of shadows. I mean, highlights. Highlights are generally like this. Red and filled with yellow. That's 90% of the time this is highlights. Okay. But sometimes, again, you might not have time to just do the whole process, and you might just do this, and that still means highlight. Is it the ideal to do it? No. If you can and you have the time, you should try to be as close as the setting as possible. But if that's not the option, or for example, sometimes you will not receive the complete setting. It might happen sometimes that you will receive only something like this. You see, this one doesn't have all the colors. It only has the lines. You might sometimes receive something like this, and you might have to just guess the colors. So you could just use blue for all of it. Again, not the ideal, but it will still work most of the time. When I began doing Nigen and I didn't understood 100% the whole process, I used the blue shadows a lot, like most of the drawing blue shadows, and I eventually began looking more and more at better materials, like better Nigen stuff, and I said like, okay, maybe I should upgrade a bit and began using the colors that the setting are asking me. Again, the setting is the safest way to proceed when choosing all of those colors. Okay. Sak is saying, I need to watch your past lives when you go through the process like you're now. But thank you for doing this. Yeah, you should take a look. Again, this is like the second big step of what we do as animators. So there might be stuff that you do not understand, or that there might be a gap on your process. So you should look at the previous ones. I'm gonna say that would work in traditional ones, but on digital it would be abysmal. There's if you're talking about like painting like with a pencil inside of the shadows, there's a lot of people that do it, way more than you would think. And yeah, I honestly think it's not correct. Like it doesn't have any advantage at all. I think you should use solid colors. Josue saying, Oshinoko character sheets with shadows 1, 2, and 3 just for the hair. Uh, a lot of people have told me to look at the Oshinoko materials. I should. I always forget to, but I should. You know what other anime was crazy with shadow levels? Kabaneri. Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. That's I think the craziest anime I've seen in terms of shadows and highlights level. Like it was insane. It's very interesting to study. Uh, Someone is asking, do studios always provide the character design sheets, or some rush productions don't even do that? They should. They totally should, because if you don't have the character design sheets, you basically cannot draw. Even though been in a couple of very rush productions from Japan. I will not say what productions, but a couple of productions, they send me the sete after I finished the cuts. Because they were like, again, extremely rushed, and they said like, there is no sete, just figure it out. thankfully thankfully my drawings were very close to what the setes were, but it was funny that just after I sent the my cuts like finished, the producer said like, oh, by the way, here's the sete for the characters, like we just finished them like last night. So yeah, it might happen, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't, honestly. Like it's part of the responsibility of the studio to provide you with all of the materials you need, and model sheets are like honestly the most important. uh Shadow is asking, is it normal to use different color on the very dark part of the shadow? Yes, but generally the setting will tell you how to do it. Generally, for very black, for very black shadows, like black stuff, they generally use this color. Uh, the brightest green you can get. This is generally black. When you have like very dark shadows, the setting will say like green is black. But green can also be used for other stuff. Like here, for example, we didn't have black shadows in Gura, but we had some gradients, and gradients are also sometimes represented with this green color. So you have to be careful. Yeah, event discretion, the goaded with studio. Yeah, what? At least it wasn't with studio. Uh, Seven deadly sins. I didn't work on the seven deadly sins. Thankfully. I think seven deadly sins might have been before I began working on animation. I don't know. Seven deadly sins, like the production that didn't go very well, they're they're actually pretty old now that I remember. But yeah, I didn't work on seven deadly sins. It was another anime that ended up looking very good actually. Even though it was very rushed, it ended up looking very good. But yeah, the production was kind of a mess. So sometimes that kind of stuff happen. Someday we need a top 10 rushed anime productions. I could talk about a bit of that. Like I'm not going to name drop the productions, but yeah, like I think most of the animators that have been working on anime for several years, we have been on some crazy rush productions. Sometimes it is awful and terrible, but sometimes it is also fun because, um, especially if you're working in a group and the things are extremely rushed. Even in Tonari, like, but this time it was different because we were doing the whole thing ourselves. But Tonari productions sometimes are very rushed too. Like we finished stuff a few days before, or we have to deliver them. That's very normal actually. Like, believe it or not, most animation productions actually are finished, if not days, hours before you have to deliver them, because there's always stuff to to fix or to add. Like it never ends. So sometimes You end up doing that. But the normal thing is that we rush stuff at the end. If you're rushing stuff like in the middle of the process, like in animation, like you don't have the setting, like that's kind of a disaster, honestly. Chiro is saying, what background materials they give you for layer work? Is it 3D backgrounds? Not necessarily. Sometimes they'll give you 3D layout stuff. But most of the time they just give you like a setting for the background. I should have looked for that. We had background setting for Gura. We actually did that because we had several backgrounds. We had her room and the beach and stuff like that. So we actually had a background setting. Maybe in the next stream I'll show you that. I have to remember to search for it on our old folders. 7 deadly flames. No, don't worry. Good question. Do they provide 3D backgrounds for composition of the key animation? Again, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I've had several productions that have provided me with 3D stuff, but it's like, I don't know, 70-30. Like 70% of the time they will just give you setting, and the other 30% they will give you like 3D layouts. 3D layout is great because when you have 3D layout or 3D backgrounds, you actually don't have to draw the background. You just paste the 3D image under it, and that's enough. So it's great when they give you 3D backgrounds because it's less work and the same amount of money. Oh, yours the message I was reading. Chiru saying, I'll wait for that BG set. Yeah, I'll remember to upload it. By the way, I uploaded several new stuff to the drive, so take a look. I uploaded all of the sete, all of Gura's sete. All of this is on the drive, so you can use it to practice. All of this. That's on the drive already. I already upload these cuts too. I have 3 or 4 cuts that I will use as an example in this and the next streams, so that you can practice your Nigen. I also uploaded something that I promised you last time. Let me show you. Last time, some people asked me about the millimeter per comma notation for speed of stuff moving on the screen, and I told you that was mainly used for paper because you don't have millimeters on your screen, but some notations in digital animation do still use this notation. And I told you that I had this image around which show you the speed, like visually, of some of the most used millimeter per comma notations. Like 0.1 millimeter per comma or frame looks like this, 0.5 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 5 millimeters and stuff. You can visually compare them now. And this is like a video. It's on the drive too. This image / video / GIF was made by someone on Twitter, and no one that I asked remember who it was. It's probably some Japanese animator or maybe some Western animator that did this image, but we don't remember who it was. But this image has been going around the community for years. So if you guys eventually find them, maybe you can tell me and we can give him a shout out. But honestly, no one remembers who this person was. But yeah, this is already on the drive, so you can save it and have it as a reference for the future, because sometimes you'll have to use it. Um, okay, here's the question that was erased. Miguel is saying, I've seen some animators on YouTube whose demo reels seem to be just rough animation. They don't do doga. Are they anime animators who only work delivering rough animation? Yes. Look, you have to be careful with the terms. Most animators in the Japanese animation industry, they do layout and Genga. Okay, what we're doing now, layout and Genga or second key. Most animators in the Japanese animation, they do not do doga, because doga is generally done by other departments. Okay, the Japanese producers, if you're working freelance, they will never ask you to do doga. Okay, that's done either in-house in their studio, or it's outsourced to other studios. But it's generally, doga is generally done by a team. Okay, not by the animator. They will never ask you to do doga. Okay, so most animators do either layout, or layout and second key, or layout and Genga. That's the range of what they do. They can also do Sakan and stuff like that, but that's another topic. Yeah, there's some animators around that only do very rough layouts, but honestly, that's not very well looked at in the industry, because again, the producers assume that you will do the whole job. If you only do layout, okay, that's not ideal, but if you only do very, very rough layouts, like where the characters are just stick figures and there's no model and stuff, if you're not very, very famous, the producers would not like that, because if you're that rough, it will just means that everyone after you will have to work a lot to fix your cuts. Okay, so that's not very well received by the industry, with good reasons. And I've said this before, but a lot of people, when they're trying to get a job in Japanese animation, they will do, for example, like very rough cuts of action, for example, like fights or stuff, or characters like running around and explosions and stuff. And honestly, to the producers that are like going around the internet looking for animators, that's kind of scares them away, because what producers want from animators generally is that they know how to do their job, like they know how to do all of this that I'm teaching you, because producers will not teach you how to do all of this. They don't have time for that. They want you to already know, and they want you to know that, for example, that you know how to notate your drawings. They know that you know how to do your timesheet and stuff. They don't have to correct you on that. If you just show them like very rough action cuts, like of crazy action stuff, they might assume that that's the only thing that you know how to do. That's not very good, because 90% of the cuts that you're going to do in anime are very simple cuts, like characters just talking or maybe walking and doing stuff. Like very, very rarely you will get action cuts, at least at the beginning. At least at the beginning, when you have been doing this for several years, maybe they'll begin like to recognize you as an action animators, and they'll just send you action stuff. But at the beginning, it's very rare. So for your demo reel and stuff like that, try to be more focused on showing them that you know the process, rather than going crazy with your action and stuff, because that, honestly, that might scare them away. I'm not saying that you cannot like include that stuff, but that should not be your priority. Okay, Tiger Pong is asking, would you say that this is the simplest way to animate, or do you find that there are other more comfortable or quicker ways to you? You mean the process, like the process the Japanese use, like layout, first key, second key? if you mean that, I think it is a very efficient way if you're working on a team. I think the Japanese pipeline in this range of animation before Doga has evolved organically for the need of time and resources. And so I think it is efficient, at least. Um, but for example, if I'm working myself, I'm doing everything myself. I of course do not go through Sakan and Sosakan and stuff, because again, I'm doing everything myself. And I might, for example, one thing I do, and this is very personal, do not do this on your normal Japanese animation work. I generally, when I work for myself, I paint and in between at the same time. Like for example, if I'm doing shadows and highlights, I do them on paint, on the painting process, and then I mix uh two different like processes in one, and it's very fast and it works. But again, that's what I do when I'm doing everything. So it is more efficient for me, and I'm pretty sure other people also do it. But for Japanese animation, when you're working on a team with a ton of other people, I think the production pipeline is efficient, at least. Some people disagree with me. Like I have some discussions with other producers, especially Western producers, that they think like there's better ways to do it, but it depends on the context. Like the environment of Japanese animation and the level of their animators and the freelancers and stuff is very different to the West. So I think it depends on the context. Aman is saying, thank you to that animator and also you, because you understand that the timing is sometimes hard. Yeah, it's very hard to understand in the beginning. Like I honestly struggle a lot, but thankfully, with the stuff we're uploading now, it will be easier for you. Josue saying, hot take, fights are easy. Want to really flex? Animate them dancing dancing the ball. That might be true. Honestly, I think I've never like animated characters like dancing, like a very elaborate scene of characters. That probably is difficult. The best way I think I'm it comes to me like the freedom scene where they're dancing. I would probably do very solid keys. I'll leave a lot of work to the Doga people. That's probably what I would do. That would be the most efficient way to do it. I'm saying this is some great information, since many people, both on Twitter and other places, they never mention this. Yeah, it's not that they never mention this, but there's so many people that talk about different stuff that it's hard to just piece up the whole puzzle, guys. Eric is saying, it might sound dumb by asking this question, but hiring freelancers to do the work with the most artistical freedom while keeping the hard redrawing work in-house seems a bit counterintuitive to me. Let me reread that. Do the work with freedom seems a bit counterintuitive. Oh, you mean because if you give more artistic freedoms to freelancers, the product may be inconsistent? Maybe that's the reason. Yeah, it was. If that's what you mean, it was a bit counterintuitive to me too at the beginning, because I came from Western animation, and in Western animation, everything is very, very strict. Like you almost don't have artistic freedoms as an animator in the West. Honestly, like if you see stuff like The Simpsons, for example, or Family Guy, stuff like that, the animators, they basically don't have any freedom to do stuff. Like everything is everything has its very specific instructions and stuff, and you cannot get out of those most of the time. So it was a bit counterintuitive to me too that the Japanese gave so much freedom to the animators uh, in these stages, but it ends up looking good. And I think that's one of the reasons why anime is so interesting, because there's variety of like people working on it. So I think they use it as a plus. Uh, I'm gonna say now, so you got a point. I remember watching Shingeki no Bahamut, and more than the actions, the dance portions look way better and way harder. Yeah, that's probably true. Uh, Miguel is saying, so basically it would be animate correctly, draw correctly, and define, keeping the model as if it were the doga, but without it being the doga. The doga is basically the cleaning department. Yeah. Um. Sorry. Yeah. I guess that's what, if we're thinking about the same, yes. The doga is basically the cleaning department, like the final cleanup. Uh, Nigen, Genga, second key should look like the model sheet and should look clean enough for the doga people to not have to guess anything, basically. You don't give them like jagged lines or double lines, you give them one line to follow and stuff like that. Because in betweening is already very difficult. And it takes a lot of time. Like if you give them poor Genga drawings, like you're making their life impossible. So yeah, one thing I should do, that I might do this week or the next, when we do the next stream, that is going to be Genga again, I probably should upload Genga drawings to you, to the drive, so that you can see how a proper Genga looks. Okay. I sadly think I didn't download final Genga for this. I should have, honestly. But maybe, let me take a look. Maybe I do have some in my Gura folders, so you can compare. But I'm not sure. Layout. No, I only have the layout for this one. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to upload them between now and the next stream. But the next stream you will have a lot of Genga to look at, so you'll be able to compare the quality. Thanks for your great help. Sorry for asking so much. No, not at all. Like, I want you guys to ask everything you can, so that you're not left with any questions or doubts. I'll try to answer as much as I can. It's part of the idea of the stream. Was saying that's something that attracted me to anime over Western animation. Quality and style control in the West seems tight like a screw. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Honestly, like there's not a lot of way around it. The only productions where I've worked on in the West that are kind of more free for the animators to do stuff is Western animation that is trying to look like anime. Like Oda-chan, for example. I've worked on a couple of Oda-chan episodes before, and they were basically, even though we were all Westerners, they were basically just imitating anime in every way. So they will just let me do this stuff the way I wanted. I don't know. I didn't work on Castlevania, but I imagine that kind of productions too are similar to anime in some ways, like in the freedom they give to the animators. But I don't know. I'm just assuming. Okay, we're nearing 3 hours. And you guys have a lot of patience hearing me talk for so long. Kind of conflicted though because I didn't advance too much on the Genga. I wanted to do more, but I ended up using a lot of time just explaining everything, which is okay. Like that's kind of what I wanted in this stream. I wanted to explain you the process so that you could understand how they correct your drawings and why they correct them and what you should do with the materials they give you back. But I thought I was going to be able to do more drawing, but we ended up talking a lot. But don't worry, next stream is going to still be Genga. So from this stream, if you're going to remember anything from this stream, remember this, okay? Remember the process and the stuff that they're going to send you back and what do they mean and how to stack your layers so that you can begin drawing. In the next stream, we're going to go past that. I'm not going to explain it again, and we're going to go directly to drawing, and I'm going to show you how to do this, but for cuts with more frames, okay? Because that's what we haven't talked about, and you are not prepared for how hard that is. It kind of sucks, but you'll have to learn it. You have to know how it's done, and I'm going to explain you, okay? Okay, I'm going to read the last few comments, and I think we'll wrap it up, okay? Aman is saying, Science Star feels like most free-feeling Japanese studio right now. I've worked for Science Star a couple of times, and they are actually very, very strict. I don't know if it was the specific productions I was. I can't remember all of them. I know I worked on Yurei Deco. I will have to look at my folders to see what are the other stuff I worked on with Science Star. But Yurei Deco was very, very strict. The director and especially the director and the producer, they were very strict with the stuff I had to show them. Like, or not show them, but the way I should do my cuts, they were very strict with that. More strict than other studios. So yeah, honestly, Science Star is not necessarily the freest studio to work on. They're still like free as any other Japanese studio, right? Like they let you like express yourself at some point with animation. But in terms of format, for example, like how you should level all your drawings and how you should, what notations you should use and all of that, like Science Star is actually very strict. So yeah, you might find those surprises eventually when you begin working with different studios. Now that I think of it, I didn't watch Yurei Deco ever. Like I worked on it and I did a big chunk of an episode. Not a big chunk, but I had a good section, and I never watched that episode. Maybe I should. Well, Avner is saying, well, it's a lot of insight that, at least for me, gives me a lot of hope for joining the industry and how it all works. Oh, I didn't know you wanted to actually work on Japanese animation, Avner. Like that's very interesting. I thought you were just here out of curiosity, but if that's what you want and the streams are useful, that makes me very happy. Emiya is saying, oh, before the live ends, could you share your social media? Yes, my social media links are on the description of the video. I'm still going to show you. I'm going to write it here. My Twitter, which is honestly my only social media. I don't have any more. Visto. Big line, no. Any. This is my Twitter, and as I said, the link is in the description. You can just go there. There's also the Twitter of Tonori and the link to the Sakuga Foundry Discord. Like if you want to get into the community, I'm always there. You can ask me questions, stuff, and there's a lot of other animators, like professional animators there too, that can help you with questions. So go take a look at Sakura Foundry. And in the description is also the Google Drive folder where I upload all of these materials, so you can use them to practice. But yeah, look at the description. I'm insane. Wait, was it the exact opposite? When you really can't trust Twitter, what you see on Twitter nowadays. As I said, maybe it was the specific productions I was working on, or maybe it was the director that was very strict. But in my head, Science Sorrow is one of the most strict studios I've worked with. Up there with Production AG, which is also very strict. But yeah, that's my experience. Maybe other productions from Science Sorrow are a bit different, but that's what I experienced. Maybe Science Sorrow is more free as long as you're the director. Yeah, that might be the thing. Yeah, Science Sorrow, people probably think that Science Sorrow is more free because their animation looks so unique, right? But yeah, it's probably the director, the one that has more freedom, or the art director and stuff. But you have to keep something in mind. To make an anime look that unique, like so different from other animes, and still make it consistent, like not make it a mess, you actually have to have a very solid pre-production. So a lot of instructions for how the characters are going to look and how you should animate them, stuff like that. It's actually counterintuitive, but I think you need an even stronger pre-production for an anime that looks kind of unique. Shadow is saying, have you ever worked for Kyoto Animation before? No. Kyoto Animation is one of the most hermetically sealed studios in the industry. I don't think they contract freelancers at all. At least like foreign freelancers from the internet, I don't think that's ever happened. I don't know anyone who has worked on Kyoto Animation. I think they're actually famous for like just having an in-house team that's very well maintained. The other studio that was very, very hard to get in recently was Ufotable. But lately, if you have paid attention to the credits on, for example, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the latest episodes that they released, they're actually beginning to get animators from like freelance animators and Western animators. I noticed when I looked at the credits, so that's an advance. Maybe sometimes I'll get to something for them. I'm just saying I have to tell you some other stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that later. Yeah, IG is very strict. That's why they're so good too. I worked for Production AG on Moriarty the Patriot, and it was very cool to receive like my corrections and stuff from the studio because they were so good. Like I think the second corrections I got from Moriarty were one of the best I got. But yeah, they're very strict too. Green Reaper is asking, is TV Paint a standard when compared to Clip Studio? They're both standard in the industry. They're both used, but Clip Studio is more used. As I said before, imagine Clip Studio being the 80% of the industry and TV Paint being the other 20%. But they're both used and both equally valid when doing work for anime. Okay, my voice is getting very tiring and we're right in the 3 hours. So if you guys don't have any more specific urgent questions, I think we will wrap it up. Again, sorry we didn't advance too much on the actual drawing, but I think we did a very good job like explaining the process and why, and the difference between first key and second key and Genga and Nigen and Ichigen and all of that. You guys might want to watch that again, but I think all of the information is there. And again, if you have any questions eventually after watching this, we will do a second stream next week. That's still going to be Genga. There we will draw a lot more. And you can ask me there all the questions, or you can go to Sakura Foundry and ask me directly there, and I will eventually answer you, or someone else, some other professional animator might take your question and answer it. Okay, so we'll keep in touch. Ulrich saying thanks for the stream. No, thanks to you guys again. Thanks to you for coming. Will the VOD be saved? Yes, all of the streams are always saved on the channel, so don't worry. Thanks for today. Thank you. I joined late. sorry you joined too late. But you'll be able to watch the VOD later. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. It was very nice. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much, and stay tuned for part 2 where we will actually draw. Oh, and by the way, this stream got a lot of attention on Twitter. I actually asked the people on the Discord and Sakura Foundry to help me share and retweet the announcement for the stream, and it did pretty well, like very, very different from other times. So if you guys want to help me and help Sakura Foundry and Tonari, you could retweet the announcement for the streams. That really helped a lot, and I think a lot of people that we have today here are here because of that. So help us by retweeting and telling people that we're doing these streams, because we really got a lot of new people into the stream. Okay, thank you everyone. It was very nice. I should go rest my voice, and you guys should also rest too, because some of you guys are very late at night. Okay guys, see you next week or in Discord. Goodbye.